Welcome everybody. This is just a quick video about Ivory and how when people are quiet, when people are censored, there is an echo chamber for the opposite of whatever is not being said. And I mentioned that in my last video about YouTube laying down the line about what can be talked about and what cannot be talked about concerning the treatments and vaccines and whatnot about COVID. And there are certain things that people can't talk about on YouTube, which means there's an echo chamber of the opposite. So there's absolutely no conflicting information or discussions being held at all. You can't do that on YouTube. And I'll leave some links below if you want to actually listen to where people are having different opinions. But this video is about Ivory and how there are people in the mainstream media who are being censored, and they're censored, which means anybody working in mainstream media is working in an echo chamber also. And of course that's what we're going to be seeing on TV because that's what they are learning. And I'm sure the same thing is happening with universities and other businesses out there. The more people get censored, the more the echo chamber becomes. Like the smaller the echo chamber, there's only certain topics that can be talked about, certain viewpoints that can be held. And my main point for this video, I guess, is to remind you that courage is contagious. So be courageous and speak up, because if you speak up, other people will feel like, oh, somebody else feels the same way I do, and then they can speak up. And it can cause this, you'll understand that there's just more of you out there. The echo chambers makes it feel like very, very small voices are a lot of people. It's an echo. That's what happens with Twitter, for instance. Large portions of people on Twitter, it's just, bots and people saying the same thing over and over again. And it's not even like real life. If some business gets torn apart by some people on Twitter, it's not their base. That's not who's actually buying their products. So, they're usually changing their views for a small group of people because they think that small group of people is a large group of people when it's not. It's just somebody who's being very loud in an echo chamber where the dissenting views aren't allowed. So people are getting a very skewed version of reality in so many different places in this world today. Whether it's health or politics or whatever else, you can probably talk about that in the comments if you've got an idea of where else this happens. But the thing is, Brett Weinstein had talked about this study, and I'm trying to remember the name, the Asch conformity experiments. And the Asch conformity experiments was where this one person was in the study and everybody else that was around him were part of the study, and he didn't know that. He thought they were participants. And so they were all asked about these lines. And if you look at the lines, you can easily see which one is the same length as the other one. But these other people who were part of the study, they lied and they said the wrong answer when asked. And oftentimes people would go with the wrong answer simply because they wanted to conform to what other people were doing. People tend to conform to what other people are doing. And so my point here is that if you are courageous and speaking out, well, people can conform to you. You can be the one who people are looking at and saying, wow, all these people are speaking out, look at this, and I can do that too. And so we can create that thing that people conform to. And so I think that's really interesting. I think about how there's certain clocks that tick back and forth, and over time they'll end up being on the same frequency, at the same, they'll tick at the same time, even if they didn't start out that way. And I think people are like that. So what's going on right now is there was a lot of people with this echo chamber who are saying one thing, and people are ticking along with that and saying the same thing. However, if there's a bunch more people who start speaking up and start speaking the truth in these respects, people can start to match their thoughts. And so we can get, the courageous ones going at the same and build that up. And so I guess that's just a long spiel more than I wanted to do. But this is what I wanted to talk about Ivory Hecker and what happened with her response to her courage, where she was, she was brave and she did something. She went to James O'Keefe at Project Veritas. And so I'll leave a link below to her Telegram if you want to join it. But these are some of the responses she has from other reporters or other people in journalism, or even ex-people in journalism, and their responses to what she was saying. So I'll just read through some of these, and I'll leave a link again to her Telegram where you can see them for yourself. She blurred out some of the personalizing information. So these are anonymous. So somebody wrote, "We were forced to air stories every day on the Trump impeachment hearings in January 2020, even when there were no hearings taking place. Forbidden to use any sound bites with Rudy Giuliani, October 2020. And my news director wanted to see sound bites with President Trump before they aired." I'm going to move on to the next one because that next sentence is cut off. "What you experienced in Houston, I also experienced in Las Vegas. So again, thank you for being brave enough to call out an entire industry." Another one. "When I was at CNN, we did completely fabricated stories, including live shots. We spent hours getting MOS to meet the manipulated slants the stories were supposed to have, regardless of then it gets cut off. More personalized information, probably. Continuing on to the next one. "You have inspired me so much at Real.Ivory. As a journalist that kept quiet for far too long, you lit a fire in me. Thank you." Courage is contagious. So if you see somebody else saying something, other people will start to speak up. Another one. "We would get feeds from other sources in raw footage. I would present it to the producer saying this is stuff on the contrary to what is being said, and they wouldn't touch it. I started work there when we had real investigative journalism. They are actors now, reading scripts and nothing more. Public figures. One reporter I admired would question the producers and would always get in trouble for asking." Next one. "Kudos for speaking out. You are 100% correct in everything you say goes on inside the newsroom. As a 15-year news veteran in top markets, I can attest that everything you say is exactly how it is. I've also worked," and it gets cut off there. Next one. "I quit news recently because my news directors did the exact same thing with me." Next one. "I walked out of a reporting gig many moons back. I was disgusted by the industry, abusive and D2. Such a lonely time. I wondered if others struggled too or had similar thoughts. I was so excited to see you take a stand. Seriously, you guys are my heroes. You are following an excellent path." With a thumbs up and strong arm emoticon. Next one. "I quit on my own, not quite in the fashion that you did, LOL, after basically being harassed out for refusing to go along with the PC anti-reality way of reporting stories." And then it goes on to another sentence, which we're not going to be able to get the rest of. Okay, so the next person. "Yep, I was naive thinking we did journalism, but my boss said he'd never let anyone on who questions." And it gets cut off. Next one. "I appreciate that. I will be speaking out soon, by the way." So courage is contagious. Next one. "I just wanted to tell you I respect the hell out of what you're doing. This business has mostly trampled on me over the years. I am just focused on doing what's right. You're giving people like me a voice, whether you realize it or not, and I support you 100%. Next one. "More of us out there than we know. Beer on me whenever we cross paths again." Next one. "We'll contact you. I want to join and be a real journalist again. Thank you for paving the way. I seriously thought I was the only one dying inside." This is what happens when people are quiet. People don't realize that everybody else out there, not everybody, but a large majority of people probably, actually believe similar things. They're just not talking about it. And so they feel alone because they think nobody else believes the way they do. So that's why you have to speak up. Next one. "I have a good idea of what you're going through. About a decade ago, I went through a similar situation when I resigned from, redacted, When my bosses tried to squash a story I was working on that the powers that be didn't want the public to be made aware of, redacted scandal, period. So we don't know what scandal that was, but this is happening. Next one. Footage of, let's say, Trump and Hillary. They would request him looking foolish, and I would change the footage last minute to show nicer than requested video. Next one. I'm finding myself in a similar situation as you, with corporate management making strange decisions when it comes to what is and isn't allowed to make air. And it's making me reconsider things I thought I knew about this business. Looks like that's it. Ivory said, it's so upsetting to hear these stories from newsrooms across America. These are just a few of the messages I've received from fellow journalists trying to cover facts on the ground and getting harassed or disciplined for doing so. I want to do a project highlighting as many of these voices as I can. If enough people stand up, we can lead a return to the principles of journalism, a return to a direct connection to the news consumers and the facts on the ground without interference from corporate interests. If you're a journalist with a story that could shed light on the problems in our industry, send me a DM or an email. I won't out you unless you want to be public, but going public will really help improve the state of news in America. So, just be brave and do something. Say something. If you do, people will see that, wow, I'm not alone and I can speak up too. You know, people will become courageous because it is contagious. So, you know, say something. I'm really grateful that these actual journalists are doing something and thinking about doing something. And I think something will happen from this in the future. And it's fantastic. And I hope that you enjoyed this video and have a great day.